Last week, the European Commission unveiled its plans for a Military Schengen zone, an EU-wide military mobility area to allow the rapid transfer of troops and equipment across countries in the bloc. Under the plans, EU countries will have 3 days in peacetime and just 6 hours in emergencies to grant permission to other European armies who want to cross their borders, with current clearance times being weeks to months. This comes amid rising cases of Russian hybrid warfare and sabotage in Europe, with the Lithuanian foreign minister claiming last week that Russia's actions are now reaching the hot phases of escalation. So in this video, we'll outline the EU's vision for a military Schengen zone, the specific measures being proposed, and whether they could work. The TLDR Black Friday sale is now on. That includes our biggest ever discounts on all products, including our coffee table book, our 2025 calendars, our colouring book, posters starting at $17.99, and much more. Find the full collection at toolong.news or by clicking the link in the description. Offer ends December 3rd. So let's dive straight in and look at the EU's proposed military Schengen zone. Officially called the Military Mobility Package, this is the latest in a series of plans to bolster Europe's defence readiness by 2030, and is intended to create an efficient military transport zone across the bloc by 2027. The Military Schengen Zone proposal was reportedly modelled on the EU's Civil Protection Mechanism, which allows member states to quickly get help in the event of natural or man-made disasters, but in this case it aims to speed up military response times in the event of a conflict. Essentially, the Military Schengen Zone is designed to achieve 3 things. 1. Simplifying and unifying the rules around military transport and cross-border permissions between EU nations. 2. Improving emergency planning by making civilian infrastructure more readily available for use by EU armies. And 3. Improving coordination on military transport between EU member states. The first and main aim of the Military Schengen Zone is to replace the existing fragmented system of different national permissions around military transport with a single, unified system across all 27 member states. Currently, if one EU army wants to move military equipment across another country, it needs to ask permission from that country's government, which can take weeks, with some member states asking for 45 days advance notice. National armies can also face delays in transporting dangerous goods, like ammunition, as well as, quote, abnormal loads, like heavy tanks, which require specific traffic safety measures. As such, the EU wants to establish a single set of permissions for cross-border military transport, including traffic arrangements and diplomatic clearances, which would apply to all 27 EU countries, reducing bureaucracy and delays. The aim is for all military transport requests to be cleared within just 3 working days, and the EU also wants to lift the time limit on those permissions, which currently need to be renewed annually, so that they remain valid until revoked. The second aim of the Military Schengen Zone is enhanced emergency planning. The Commission proposes a new emergency framework called the European Military Mobility Enhanced Response System, or EMAS, which enables additional temporary measures to guarantee cross-border military transport in emergencies. For instance, giving armies priority access over civilian transport infrastructure. To prepare for this, the EU has been investing in what's known as dual-use infrastructure, i.e. transport infrastructure that serves both civilian and military purposes, under its €1.74 billion Connecting Europe Facility, or CEF, transport programme. Other proposed emergency measures include reducing the minimum advance notice that armies have to give countries they want to cross to just 6 hours before they're scheduled to arrive, exempting military transport from traffic restrictions, allowing rail vehicles to operate more flexibly beyond their authorised area, as well as extra measures to protect strategic dual-use infrastructure. Finally, the third objective of Military Schengen is improving coordination between EU member states. One element of this is a solidarity pool, which will allow European countries to offer their own transport and logistics assets, like trains, ferries, or strategic airlift capabilities to other national armies. The Commission is also proposing a, quote, military mobility catalogue, where European businesses can display their transport and logistics assets, like lorries, warehouses, or distribution centres for military use, giving armies a clear picture of their options. Moreover, to avoid countries double booking the same services, European contractors will have to inform member states when they've been booked. The Military Schengen Zone will also establish 4 priority military transport corridors, whose locations remain a secret, which are being built from 500 pre-selected hotspot infrastructure projects, like upgrades to road, rail lines, ports, airports, tunnels, and bridges, to support the weight of heavy military equipment. With the projects being financed by the CEF programme, which is set to increase tenfold to over 17 billion euros under the EU's next 2028-2034 budget. The Commission also wants to establish a group of national coordinators for military transport, one from each member state, to support internal coordination across the bloc. So, now that we've covered the main details, can the Military Schengen Zone actually work? Well, it's definitely a step in the right direction for the EU, who's often been criticised for having a confusing patchwork of different national rules instead of a single unified system. In this respect, streamlining the rules around military transport, traffic arrangement, and cross-border permissions should definitely help to enable a faster crisis response, by reducing processing time and delays, which could be costly in a war. It also projects more capability and readiness, which could itself deter aggressors like Russia from attacking. Another benefit of the Military Schengen Zone is that it should help non-EU NATO allies, like the UK and Turkey, to move equipment faster and more efficiently inside the EU. To this end, the EU is also proposing that NATO be invited to join exercises on military mobility and attend working group meetings about logistics. Similarly, the proposed regulations will also apply to 2 EU candidate countries, Moldova and Ukraine, helping them to align with the EU's common foreign and security policy, which should in turn help speed up their accession to the bloc. The Military Schengen Zone also helps support European strategic autonomy, because by smoothing out internal logistics, the EU becomes less dependent on external actors like the American military for rapid transport across the bloc. However, the plans still need approval from the EU Parliament, where they could face opposition from member states or Eurosceptic MEPs who oppose further EU integration, or the idea of giving up their sovereign border controls. And even if it enters into force, there are still some exemptions. For instance, member states in the solidarity pool being able to exclude themselves when, quote, confronted with an exceptional situation requiring the use of those capabilities, which could be exploited by countries that just don't want to share their resources. Moreover, European businesses might object over the possible new disclosure requirements or higher compliance burdens when it comes to dual-use infrastructure, potentially complicating rather than simplifying EU regulations. Overall though, the plans definitely sound like a good idea for ensuring Europe's security and its ability to respond rapidly and efficiently in a military emergency, something that most EU lawmakers can probably get on board with. If you're interested in major news events like this, you'll have certainly been paying attention to what's been happening in the Middle East recently, with the whole region seemingly in a state of flux. That's why the next issue of our magazine, Too Long, is all about that issue, with our headline section titled The New Middle East. Plus, this Black Friday we're running our cheapest price ever, with new subscribers getting their first copy as cheap as $2.99. As I said, this next issue is all about the Middle East, running through each country in the region and discuss their future, before reflecting on how recent events have reshaped the Middle East forever. We obviously talk about the Middle East a lot in videos, but this is our most zoomed out, detailed and thought through coverage yet, truly outlining how we see this region re-emerging. It's not just that though, there have also been a lot of major elections this year. So in this issue, we have a whole section talking about all of the major elections that have taken place this year, and how global politics has changed. China's continued dominance, politics in the UK, and how politicians have hijacked social media. This latest issue is now available for pre-order on our website, and if you subscribe using the code Black Friday at checkout, then you'll get £5 off your first copy, bringing the price down to as low as $2.99. Plus, there's also special subscriber bundles, including our other TLDR products, which offer even greater value. Anyway, click the link in the description for all of the offers, and thank you for supporting the channel.